It's time for Twig This Week in Google. The countdown has started for the Nexus 5. No, maybe KitKat. I don't know. We'll talk about that and big privacy changes at Google. It's all coming up next on This Week at Google.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 220, recorded October 16th, 2013. Colder than space. This Week in Google is brought to you by Personal Capital. With Personal Capital, you'll finally have all your financial life in one place and get a clearer view of everything you own. Best of all, it's free. To sign up, go to personalcapital.com/twig. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show that covers Google, the cloud, Facebook, Twitter, really whatever's on our minds, because we've got the best panel ever, as always. Gina Trapani is here from ThinkUp.com. We're going to talk about that brand new business coming down the line. Founding editor of Lifehacker. Hi, Gina. Mother to Etta. Also here, Mr. Jeff Jarvis of the City University of New York. He's a professor of journalism at CUNY. He also is the author of numerous books, including, most recently, Public Parts. And his blog is buzzmachine.com. Gina's is smarterware.org. Although I bet you we don't see a lot of postings lately because she's been kind of busy on something else. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
A little bit busy. Also, we're really glad to have Aaron Newcomb here. He's a regular on many of our shows, including Floss Weekly and All About Android. You were here last night, and we said, yeah, you want to come in for Twig?
Yeah, I did All About Android last night, Floss Weekly this morning, and then This Week in Google.
Busy guy.
Yeah.
Aaron is at you've got a new job since last we talked.
New job at NetApp. Yep, that's right. Doing solutions marketing for them with their storage products, so it's a lot of fun.
Good to have you.
Glad to be here.
I don't know where to start.
We know where to start.
Beacon for Google. Is that where we should start?
I think we should start with ThinkUp.
Oh, we should start with ThinkUp, and then we'll talk about Google's new privacy policy. You're absolutely right. So ThinkUp.com. Now, this is not a new product because we've been talking about ThinkUp for some time.
This is the thing I have been waiting for. The dummy in the show has been waiting for.
The hosted version of ThinkUp. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, this is the easy sign up. So ThinkUp's an open source app I've been working on for 4 years. I've talked about it here on the show quite a bit. But it's an app that you install on your web server, and not everybody has a web server. So ThinkUp.com is basically going to be the WordPress.com to the open source app. It's going to be the hosted sign up centralized service.
And I'll vouch for it because I've been using ThinkUp for over a year, and it's amazing the analytics you get. Now, I've just been using it for Twitter, but this won't be just Twitter, right?
No, it won't. It's going to be right now. The open source app supports Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Foursquare. We just had Instagram pull requests come in, and we get analytics from Bitly, and we get location data from Google Maps. I mean, it's a totally pluggable architecture. So yeah, we basically hook it up to new services every few months. We just did Google Summer of Code, actually, which is an open source mentorship program that Google runs. And in fact, I'm going to be up at the Googleplex this weekend. There's a mentor summit for all the mentors in Summer of Code. Yeah. And one of my students who I mentored this summer built the Instagram plugin. So I'm really excited about that.
So you're doing a kind of a Kickstarter-y thing. If you go to thinkup.com, you can join now, and in fact, kind of pledging that you will be a member. It's $60 a year, $5 a month for the basic plan. That means one name for all the services just mentioned.
Yep.
There's a pro plan that lets you do 10 names for every service.
Up to 10 accounts plus API access and kind of access to our beta builds. So that's the pro membership for folks who are kind of power users.
We probably should do the executive, since we are an organization and want a stake in your future. So what do you get? You get the book, which is kind of cool, Insights, and then you get the service.
Yep. So we've got an incredible collection of interviews from some of the some of the most really interesting people. We haven't announced who's in the book yet, but trust me, it's going to be really good. We're doing a series of interviews about how some of the most creative and smartest people online use social media. That'll be the book. So you get the ebook. That's a special just for the crowdfunding campaign. But when you back the crowdfunding campaign at ThinkUp.com, you're subscribing to the service. You're buying an annual membership essentially. You don't get charged until we actually launch, which is going to be January 15th. So you're just saying, hey, I want to pre-join, and that's kind of a way for us to turn our users into our investors. We just want to build this product and be as accountable to our users as we are to our investors.
Are you going to launch no matter what, or is this kind of contingent on raising enough money?
We're going to launch no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have investors?
Which is exciting. Yes, we do. We closed I would call it a modest round, a modest non-tech crunch-worthy round of funding from some really great investors. And we haven't announced the details of that yet, but our goal as a company is to be as sort of open and transparent as possible. So we're in the process of, getting the final okay from all the lawyers, and we are actually going to publish the details of our round of funding because we kind of want to help make that whole process, which has taken a really long time for us and has been a huge educational thing for me, more transparent, and give some insight to other young companies who want to start doing this.
I know we talked about it in the car coming back from Leo's when we were there for I/O. Just rough numbers. How many times did you have to make the presentation to get the round done?
Oh man. I mean, luckily, Anil, my co-founder, is amazing and tireless, and is like the best I've ever seen like anybody do anything with a pitch deck. I mean, he really took the burden of that off of me, and he really did the pitches. I went to the meetings. He did a lot of the pitches. I was writing a lot of the code. But yeah, it was a slog. It was a slog.
Yeah.
So we should say it's Anil Dash, who many of us remember from 6 Apart. He was there for a long time, and he's been your partner on ThinkUp for a while. There he is.
Yep, quite some time.
And
there he is.
a great guy. I love Anil. And
yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. So this is a good team. Is that you in the background?
So I was just going to ask.
No, that wasn't me.
There she is.
Yeah, there I am. I'm in the video at some point.
Well, I've signed up, and I've shared it on Twitter and Google+, and I invite everybody to do the same. It's easy to do, thinkup.com. And trust me, I think, if you have questions, browse around. When you see the kind of valuable stuff that you learn, I visit ThinkUp a lot just because I love the insights, and this has just been on Twitter. I can't wait to add all my other social networks to this.
Thank you so much. And we were really inspired. I was really inspired by a lot of the things that we've talked about, particularly Jeff, your principles on the internet, or acting on principle, and Anil also pushed this. We published our kind of values as a company, and like part of our goal with this campaign is not only to launch a product that hopefully customers think is valuable enough to pay for, but also to build a company that's extremely, that's accountable to its users first, and that is as open source as the source code is for the app. Yay. And is transparent and forthright. Yeah, thank you. It's hard. When you publish a company's values, it's like it's like can a company have values? It's like no, of course people have values, right? It always. I was tweeting the other day, like, is this does this trip your BS detector when you hear a company has values? But it's about sort of creating the ground rules. Like this is what we are setting out to do, and you should call us out on it if we're not doing the right thing. And so anyway, I want to thank you, Jeff, for kind of hammering home the importance of having principles kind of from the beginning.
That's awesome.
It all comes down to that. Don't be evil, Gina.
Yeah.
And you can still, if you run a server and you know a little bit about it, configuring for PHP and so forth, you could still install ThinkUp on your own servers, right?
Absolutely. The app is not changing. The app is open source. It will remain open source. And in fact, the purpose of the company is to fund development of the open source app. That's not going away. You will always be able to install it on your own server for free. You'll always be able to hack it and modify it and fork it and send pull requests back to us. That doesn't change. And in fact, it would violate the license if we did change that. So this isn't to end the open source development or to make ThinkUp not free. It's actually the opposite. We want to spend our time, instead of doing stupid pitches in VC conference rooms, we want to spend time actually building the product. So that's partially why we're doing the crowdfunding campaign too.
That really is the WordPress model in the time. And I talked to Polaris, were WordPress's VCs way back in the time, with Matt Mullenweg, and they got convinced to leave WordPress.org as the open source, and that it's really a sensible model because everybody who uses WordPress has to add to the code base. Everybody who writes extensions for it adds to it. WordPress.com is the smartest company on top of it, the first in, but they benefit from all that free work that's going into WordPress.org. It's smart.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win, and we're going to get Gina on Floss Weekly to talk just about exactly what she just said. So we're gonna absolutely do that. Yep.
That's one of the neat things about open source is the different models people choose, the different ways. It's a great way to experiment with new ways of thinking about business, and I just this is great.
It's
thrilled.
also about the thing that struck me from all this NSA stuff and listening to Steve on Security Now.
So depressing.
Is I know, but the notion that open source is the path to trust.
Yes.
And to do it, you're right, Gina, not just as code, but as a company, and as hardware too. As we head into that, it's all the more necessary and all the more laudable.
Good. Do you want to just in a nutshell describe the analytics that you get from ThinkUp?
Absolutely. So ThinkUp is a really simple app. It's a stream of insights, right? So the first iteration, version 1.0, was kind of like Google Analytics. You kind of went to this dashboard and you just get a bunch of charts. And we think that that's valuable, but we think that the app should do more, right? It should tell you what do the charts mean. So what the app is a very simple reverse chronological stream of insights on things that are happening in those charts. So things like, what was the tweet that made my followers the happiest last week? Do people like my old profile picture better than my new one? Did anyone who is well known or have a lot of followers retweet something of mine? And we send an alert, if you do. Do any of my new friends or followers work at Google or work at Facebook? That kind of thing. So it just pings you. It's just a little. It's kind of like a news feed, but it's of insights about your activity, about what's going on with your activity.
And it provides you with all your tweets. There's no limit to the number of tweets you can archive. It archives all your tweets. And Steve Martin used it to create his book of Twitter aphorisms. He's very funny on Twitter. The comedian Steve Martin, very funny on Twitter. Yeah. And so Gina hooked him up and got him set up on ThinkUp so that he could have all his tweets.
Yes,
I hope that was in the deck.
Yeah, it was. There's a thing, like, I love what Google does with data liberation. I get it. But to me, an export link is just not enough, right? So I can export my tweets now, right? So if I went to Twitter right now and I clicked on export my tweets, great, I get a zip file of my tweets. It's not enough. The minute that I tweet something new, that file is out of date, and it's just a dead zip file on my hard drive. It's not enough, right? I should be getting all of my data, and when I say all of my data, I mean the replies from my friends, I mean the favorites, I mean the links, I mean the expanded links, I mean the number of clicks per link, right? And this is all stuff that Twitter has and knows about me, and Facebook has and knows about me, and they use that data to advertise to me more effectively, and I have no problem with that. But I also can learn a lot more about myself and how I can get better. Imagine a sort of quantified self for my social, persona. And I should be able to get that. So while I love data liberation, and I'm really glad that these networks are giving us the opportunity natively to export our own data, because that, again, feature 0, right? Like that's we should be able to get in when we put out. I just don't think it's enough. So that's why I built ThinkUp, because it's constantly syncing your data, learning about what you're doing, and then telling you what you should know about what you're doing versus just locking up those kind of insights inside, the company's ad systems, ad targeting systems.
When I export my data from Twitter, though, all I'll get is the tweets that I've done, not all the rest of that wonderful stuff.
Right.
Does Twitter have to cooperate? Do you have Twitter's
ThinkUp then?
It is in ThinkUp, yeah.
But I can add that in ThinkUp.
We are going to add an import your archive feature. Yep.
So if you join ThinkUp now, you can go back and add history.
Yeah, from the API, programmatically in the API, you can go back 3,200 tweets. I think Twitter hasn't, particularly Twitter, they haven't increased that. But if you have an archive, we are going to have a feature that'll let you just import your archive. So you have to export from Twitter, import your archive, and then that gives you kind of all the flashback kind of stuff, like, hey, what was I talking about 3 years ago? What was, what's the last time I did, who's someone that we haven't talked to in over a year, who I'm friends with, that kind of thing. Because we do kind of a lot of look back stuff.
It would make sense for Twitter to support this because it makes people use Twitter more, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, ThinkUp's goal, and I know this is kind of squishy and people were like, what does this mean? But, our headline on the crowdfunding campaign is like, feel good about social networking, right? Like, this is supposed to help people get more insight into what's going on their network and appreciate what's going on their network and make them tweet more and make them like more and make them participate more, because fundamentally we think that more participation is a good thing.
Right.
Right. but we want to make users' participation more mindful, more thoughtful, more informed, and more effective.
So now we have to push on this show. We have to push Google Plus to enable export, right?
Yeah, I mean, Google Plus definitely has a lot of data locked up into it, and it does have an API, and we do have Google Plus support. The API could be better; it's read-only. But that's okay for us because ThinkUp is read-only. It doesn't post for you. But yeah, I mean, plus ones and replies. Right. I mean, there's lots of possibilities for finding out, making new connections and finding better content and figuring out what was important to you in the past and what is now, what's important to your friends through that data. And they could do a better job with their API. I'd like to see more improvements to their API.
What's the service that's not cooperating that you would most want to have an API?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, happily, we're in a place in 2013 where the most popular services, which I would argue are, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and to some degree Foursquare and Path, like have pretty good APIs. There aren't that many services that don't have an API at all. There's always like things that I wish certain APIs did, right? Like Twitter's API, Twitter is always kind of focused on like follower count, for example. That's something, it's very easy to find out how many people follow someone on Twitter, right? But you can't very easily find out how many people are subscribed to someone, for example, on Facebook. You can get their subscribers and page through 100 times, but they don't offer like a total, So I have little nitpicks about, I wish there were particular methods that were available, say on Facebook as anywhere else, but there's no one company that I'm like, this is, the API is completely, terrible. They all sort of offer their own take on what they think is important. It's really interesting to see what those companies value, through their API. They offer API methods for data that they think is valuable. So on Twitter, followers is really, is a valuable and important thing. Your home timeline is a big thing for Twitter, but it's not as much on Facebook.
Does Reddit have one?
Oh, that's a really good question. I actually haven't looked into the API. It should. It's open source. I can't imagine that it doesn't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm sure it has a wonderful API actually.
Well, I think having this federated view is awesome. I mean, this is especially for companies or for people trying to, that are kind of in the industry, so to speak, as we are, that want to reach out and see, okay, what's my reach? Am I doing well on Facebook? Am I doing well on Twitter? Maybe Google is really taking off all of a sudden. What did I do differently there that, made that happen? So I think having these insights, especially for companies or individuals that are promoting themselves to a certain degree, hopefully not out of ego, but like, people like us that are doing shows and things, we want to reach out to as many people as possible. This is super valuable information. So.
Yeah, thank you. We're definitely targeting power users. We're definitely targeting individuals. I mean, one of the main things that we think is that social media works best for individuals, right? Like the Barack Obama account on Twitter has way more followers than the White House account, right? Because one is a sort of a faceless organization and one is an individual person. And so we think that social media works best with individuals, but we're definitely targeting people like the hosts on this network or people who have a YouTube channel or an Etsy store or a Kickstarter, people who are, purposely trying to gain audience, trying to have conversations, not people who are gonna, buy 10,000 followers for $100 and then submit a report to the chief marketing officer and try to prove that, the brand is doing better, right? Like this is for people who actually care and who want to be honest and authentic. I know that that's become kind of a buzzword recently, but individuals who really do want to get better at participating in these networks because they're powerful things.
So how well does it scale right now? I mean, what if I was a company and I wanted to roll something like this out or use this because I've got just for my like main brand presences on Google Plus and Facebook and whatever else. I mean, would it scale well enough for a company that's doing lots of things?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a PHP MySQL application. If you're a company, we ran it for the White House. They have tons of followers and get just gigabytes and gigabytes of responses and engagement from their followers. We did a lot of work on optimizing and making sure that we had kind of that the app scales for people at that rare air. That is extremely rare. For the big, we're really kind of targeting people with, individuals who have bigger audiences than most of the population. We are targeting for power users, but for, really it kind of depends. It depends on how popular the brand is or how many followers they have, but it pretty much works for 95%. We do run into those few users who say, "Hey, my crawl time's out," and it's like you've just got so much data that it's just looping through pages and pages and pages. But we built in a lot of stopgaps for that kind of situation.
Cool. I've got to imagine if it works for the White House, that's going to cover
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good,
99% of
yeah.
the population.
And and
Pretty good
Steve
sample.
Martin, and Felicia Day.
Right,
Yeah, we've had some really big users with over 1 million. We've had 1 million plus follower users, and things crashed and we fixed it.
There you
The nice
go.
thing was that we have 4 years of development and experience running the open source app behind us. So I'm really excited. The rollout in January is going to be really super solid and stable because we've been building this thing for so much time. This isn't brand new code. This is code that's been stress tested and iterated over time.
Excellent.
Great.
Again,
Thank you
thinkup.com, and you can do it. You can do it yourself. Sign up today.
Thank you.
It's going to happen no matter what, but sign up today. It's nice to have a built-in customer base, right?
Yeah, look, frankly, yeah, we want to launch with a customer base.
Yeah.
We want to be bringing revenue
as you
month
should.
one.
I can't imagine you wouldn't. So good. Congratulations. That's really great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let's talk about Google. They're trying to make a little money on the side. I don't blame them. It's an expensive thing running all those servers and so forth. So they changed their privacy policy in advance. Unlike Facebook, where they just change it and then wait till you find out. They change it in advance to let you know that at some point in the future, unknown when, they're going to start using what you plus one or I don't know exactly what the criteria will be to do an endorsement ad to your friends. Kind of like Facebook, right? Is this like sponsored posts on Facebook?
Well, it's like Beacon was.
That's where it is different than Facebook because it's not just on Google Plus. It will go wherever Google ads go.
Right. When I interviewed...
Well, wait a second. Wasn't Beacon, if you purchased shoes at Zappos, then it would say, Leo bought these shoes? That was a little different, right? This is only if you've plus one something or reviewed something positively on
Google calls them shared endorsements. So
The thing is, it may not be an endorsement.
It's just a plus one.
Yeah, and it is a use of your likeness in advertising, and there's all kinds of laws around that ever since the days of 1890s and people in photography. There was a young woman whose face was used on the side of a flour barrel against her wish. She actually lost the case, but it's a major case in the use of likeness.
Right.
In advertising.
Here's what Google says: to ensure that this will go into effect November 11th. But you can't opt out now. And by the way, you're opted in by default, so you need to actually opt out if you want to get out of this. To ensure that your recommendation, I love the language, to ensure that your recommendations reach the people you care about, Google sometimes displays your reviews, recommendations, and other relevant activity throughout its products and services. It sometimes includes shopping contexts. So it is kind of like Zappos. If you buy a song at the Google Play Music Store, that counts. And ads. Your profile name and photo may appear with a recommendation. If you search for Italian restaurants, for example, you might see an ad for a nearby restaurant along with Aaron Newcomb really liked Giuseppe's, or in Google Play.
Searching alone.
Bless you.
I didn't get the microphone down. Sorry, I apologize for that.
We call these shared endorsements.
Alone, isn't so bothersome as and saying, hey, your friends like this restaurant. That's Foursquare. I'm for that. It's the use of it in the ad without your explicit. Okay.
Here's 3 examples on Google's page. There's one where you see a street view of a restaurant, and then Marcia Garcia says 5 stars, more than just bagels. That's kind of a search. But then here is an ad, an AdSense ad for summertime spas, in which Katya Klenova says, super relaxing, can't wait, 5 stars. Or an ad for Google Nexus 7, 16 gigabytes. Roger Willis says, great value. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty clear that this was not done. This is not like, it's like referring back to something somebody said publicly on Google.
Well, that's the thing. I don't have a problem with that. If you've already posted a review or endorsed something with an explicit +1, then I'm fine with that. It's the shopping thing that bothers me. So I went to Google Play and I purchased the Nexus 7. Does that mean that I endorsed the Nexus 7? No, it means I bought the Nexus 7. Maybe I hate it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like maybe once I got it, I hate it.
Maybe
and
you
is
were
it going to
forced
say?
to buy it for your wife, and you did it
Right.
against your
Right.
will. Maybe it's
Exactly,
a surprise
that's-
for your wife.
But I don't know. Will it? We don't. None of these examples. In all three of these examples, these are actual endorsements. They gave it
Yeah.
a rating and a review. It's unclear. Can just buying a product then put you in the ad? I don't know. And what would it say?
That's my question.
Gina Trapani
Yeah.
bought one.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it would
right.
say.
And that would have that has a
It's
serious
nobody's
implication.
business. Well, it's nobody's
Yeah,
business
well,
either.
And for someone who does a show called All About Android, right? If my face is next to the Nexus 7 as
Right.
an endorser, that's kind of a big deal. For you too, Leo, you buy everything. Your face would be next to everything. That doesn't necessarily mean that you endorse it, right?
So-
You purchase things to review them.
This sometimes includes shopping contexts, but it displays reviews, recommendations. The problem is these words, other relevant activity.
Yeah.
What is other relevant activity? And I don't know if they're explicit about that. You can
Yeah,
turn it
like
off.
a song.
Maybe am I the only
Yeah.
one? I have a problem with them putting it in an ad. I'm okay in an editorial context, in a search context, of saying, here's 5 people you know who +1 to this thing. I think it's public. It's
And that
fine.
happens
I
all
have
the
no
time
problem
now.
with that.
That's already
Yes.
happening. Yeah.
I'm cool with that. But then to put it in an ad that they're getting paid for and using my likeness in advertising, that's going over the line for me.
And it would. And the other thing is that moderates a little bit. It would only show up to people you are encircled with.
Even so, well, in some cases even more so, because maybe I bought it as a gift, or maybe I
Right.
said this. I don't know. It's just, and you opt me in.
Right. That's the thing I don't like.
automatically
I
to a
don't like that.
commercial activity. To a shared activity, fine, but to a commercial activity, I don't know, Google. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Am
like-
the only one who's upset by that part.
I don't like the fact that you have to opt out of this, that everyone's in by default. I mean, I know it doesn't work any other way. I get the logistics of it
Yes.
because nobody would opt into this thing otherwise. But
Right, exactly.
but doesn't that tell you something? I mean, doesn't that tell you something that nobody would volunteer to do this? I mean,
No, I don't get it. That's a really good point, Aaron. If you really think like the user, then you've got to think what the user's benefit is, and there's no user benefit to doing this.
Right. Yeah, they're trying to pitch it that way, but your friends want to know what you like.
The benefit is that you get to see. Look, when I check into somewhere on Foursquare, if it says Leo has been here, which it does, it'll
Right.
tell me which of my friends have been to a
Right.
place. That's useful information. to
And it
me. I
will
would
give
be
you
like,
any
oh, cool.
tips that I
And
that I
tips
shared.
is even more information. But even if my friends have just been to a place that I'd never been to before,
Right.
my brain connects. I see the faces of my friends. To
I'm
me,
all
that
for that,
there's a
Gina.
little bit of an implicit endorsement there. I'm like, I
I'm
want
all
to be
for
here
that.
too.
So, but
Okay,
is
but
Foursquare?
here's the-
Is it wrong for Foursquare to do this?
Well, here's
Well,
the
no,
next
I mean
step.
these are very close. These are similar things, but they're
Mm-hmm.
also very different.
Right.
Leo's Pasta Palace puts up a billboard in the street, and it puts your face and says Gina Trapani, 4 stars. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's wrong, right?
Well, why is that any different?
Although it happens all the time in fair use situations. If you, in fact, you know this, Jeff, your name I'm
As a
sure was
critic,
used
yes.
frequently. Jeff Jarvis gives Moonlighting 4 stars, and there's nothing you can do about that, Jeff, because you did review it in public.
Yeah, I mean that happens with blogs all the time. I find Lifehacker logos everywhere.
Is
I had
this
no idea
different?
about.
But there is. But I don't know how that squares with that. That's quoting, but squaring with using your likeness to endorse a product. I mean, here's
By the way,
example.
I am with you guys. I hate this, and of course, I immediately unchecked it.
I did too.
Particularly because it eats into my own revenue. We sell my endorsement. That's the
Right.
only way we make money on Twit is by selling my endorsement.
Right, that's
really
Twit's
do make
business
it work.
value.
It's huge business value. There's no business without that. So I'm very careful about my endorsement. On the other hand, why do people review things on sites? Because they want their friends to see the reviews, right? You don't review something, you don't give something stars because you don't want anybody to see it.
That's exactly right. Whenever a brand says like us on Facebook, whenever I see my friends, it says like 12 of your friends like Pepsi or whatever, I always think to myself like they're that's a declaration. It's a
schmucks.
public declaration about it is a public endorsement. It always baffles me because I very rarely like stuff on Facebook or +1 stuff unless it's something that I really, really, really like, unless it's something that I would feel comfortable everybody knowing in whatever context. And I think that we have to think about our +1s and our faves and our likes that way as a public
you
statement.
might have done it to get a coupon. I've seen that a
Well-
lot.
well,
where,
have-
just save us, get this or that.
Have any of you
Okay,
ever
what
reviewed
the
anything
heck?
on Amazon?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's public.
Yeah, and that takes effort and time, and that to me is the same as writing a post or a blog post, right? I mean, it's a public thing.
But the
It's
difference
I
there is
think
I can
it-
see all the posts, Leo. I can see all the positive and the negative.
Right.
And
They're only going to
and-
show the 5 stars.
Yeah, it's like the schmuck guy at a certain network who, when I was a TV critic, you know,
But don't they do this on movie reviews all the time?
Says Jeff Jarvis.
Don't they do this on movie reviews all the time? Jeff Jarvis said, "I was on my feet." But they don't. They leave out the part where it says "leave faster."
hell out of there.
Getting the hell out of there.
Right.
Don't
Yeah, it's
they
like,
do that all?
that's
They
not
misrepresent
basic.
critics all the time. You don't have any
This-
recourse.
Bottom line is, this just doesn't seem like a very googly thing to do.
It doesn't.
It seems like a
I have
Facebooky thing to do.
trouble with it does
Yeah.
seem like a Facebooky thing to do. It really
that a word?
does.
Facebooky?
Facebooky.
It's just as good as
Now
Googling.
I have also a problem with the default. A couple of people in the chat room are noting that when we went to their settings that it was unchecked. I had the same thing. It was unchecked when I went
Really?
to my settings. But Google is saying that those are people who had opted out of some sort of advertising setting in the past.
Oh,
which I
interesting.
possibly could have done.
So they're trying to honor your general feeling, if you've ever expressed it. Mine was checked.
Mine was checked.
Right. I don't know what setting that they took that signal from, but yeah, mine was unchecked. So there was something there that it was reading from the past that
Somebody
it made an
said,
assumption
"Don't
about.
mess with Gina."
Yeah.
No, siree.
Gina's not going to like that. Flip that bit in the database.
So we see the effort to have the what's now called the Schmidt-faced campaign.
Yeah, everybody's putting Eric Schmidt's face up. They're changing their profile picture on Google Plus to Eric Schmidt's face, or they're making posts saying use Eric's picture all you want.
That's funny.
That's pretty funny.
Ah,
That won't go.
I think
won't
it's
go
funny.
too far. I know. Yeah, that's I think the biggest issue, right? Is I understand Google needs to monetize. It's just such a Facebooky way to do
I'm
it.
not outraged. I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
What if they shared in the monetization? I mean, what if they said, "Hey,
That's
if
the
we
way to do
use
it.
your image and someone buys something, then you get a small percentage."
That's actually a great idea.
That is
Then
a great idea.
I would
Everybody's
totally
looking at Leo.
go back and change my setting to check if they
Well,
did
here,
that.
but you're right. But here's the problem. Right. I was thinking about that too, Aaron. But then it gets gamed. Let's say they just gave you play credit, right? Just make a Google
play credit.
currency.
Yeah.
But then what you're going to see is somebody's going to like everything they can possibly like.
Right.
And then Matt Cutts is busy trying to figure out a new form of spam.
Right.
But I agree, there should be some value back. Give me a reason to do it.
'Cause that's
or, let me know when, or make it more social. Let me know when friends bought something that I recommended. I use affiliate deals. That's the way to do it. Or on the ad, say, see what your friends have said about this product, and let me click and go to it. But to just slap my face on their ad without my explicit permission, Facebooky.
Here's an interesting thing. Google is going to, apparently, according to Engadget, pay people for using their iOS or Android mobile meter apps that monitor your app usage and web browsing habits and send the data back to Google. Google will offer you rewards. Actually, Google says it's just rumor. It's speculation. But Engadget sources say Google will offer you rewards with the mobile meter program. You'll have to give your consent, obviously, install the app, opt in. And it's not clear what those rewards will be. Google does confirm development of the new apps. This is part of a market research project called Screenwise. So you'll be, in effect, a panelist.
Yeah, Google rewards you in other ways. If you're a really active Google Plus user, you can get be marked as one and get swag. I mean, there's things we do.
So there is precedent, perhaps, for Google rewarding you for participating.
It's rather just unclever, right? If I'm a good product endorser and people buy things I endorse and in turn like them and endorse them, that becomes an interesting social system that can be created. But this is just so obvious.
I think the attitude here is similar to what Mark Zuckerberg's attitude is, which is, well, why wouldn't you want to let your friends know?
But here's the funny thing, Leo.
But that feedback loop though is key, right? Like
Is key.
it would make me really happy if I heard from my friends that they all bought Nexus 7s because they saw my endorsement. And
wouldn't you
yeah, they
want
really
that?
like it or they really hate it. What was I thinking? Right? Like that would complete the loop for me. That would that would be as good as a play credit for me.
Or in my case, that they didn't buy it on Verizon because I told them not to.
Yes. And I
Yes.
didn't buy it on Verizon thanks to Jeff.
That's why Jeff is on the show. To keep people from buying it on Verizon.
When they still haven't done it. They still haven't done it. It's been another week. It's now 5 weeks.
Well, they can't.
still
There's
haven't
nothing
done
they
it.
can do right now because the government's shut.
Oh,
So
no. Wrong, Mr. Laporte. Wrong. It's already certified as workable. It's already working in every other network. There is absolutely nothing they need but to just put a SKU in their system and it would go up.
Well,
No, sir,
they're
wrong
waiting
call.
for a call.
Verizon could do it.
they're waiting for the FCC to return their call.
No. The FCC.
Just to tell them
The
that.
FCC is out right now, so they can't bring them to the justice they deserve.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Leg irons and public shame.
Maybe that's what's going to happen tomorrow when the government gets back to work. You're going to get satisfaction, Jeff Jarvis.
First priority is go after friggin' Verizon.
Didn't you did file a complaint, didn't you?
Oh yes.
Have you heard anything back?
I filed back again and said no. I back to Beacon. When I interviewed Zuckerberg for my book Public Parts, he said Beacon was a big mistake, and I said, well, Mark, I could imagine that you could fix it this way. And he interrupted. He said, no, it was a mistake. People
Wow.
didn't want that. We shouldn't have done that. It was a mistake.
Well,
period.
maybe Larry should learn from his friend Mark.
Related to the mobile meter story, Facebook just bought Onavo. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's basically a mobile app analytics company. I noticed the news because I had featured one of their analytics apps on All About Android. It was one of my Arena picks. And it's basically the one that I featured is an app that monitors your mobile usage and tells you which apps are consuming the most bandwidth and how much,
Oh, that's good.
what, categories of what kind of bandwidth you're using.
Because it's
I mean,
always
really-
Facebook
really
that uses the most.
well, right. It's true. Facebook and Instagram were consistently one of the highest bandwidth hogging, which either means they're being used a lot or they're just bandwidth hogs, probably both. But it's interesting, like these companies are basically asking for users' permission to install spyware to see how and there's a lot of good that could come out of that. Like understanding how users consume data on smartphones is one of is an important part of extending our networks and increasing coverage and getting Verizon to work on Jeff's Nexus 7. But it's like it feels like the keyloggers of like back in the day, when those like spyware keyloggers that would get installed on our Windows machines and watch what we do.
Big bucks for this. $150 to $200 million for Onavo.
Mm-hmm.
Expensive. So wither the Nexus 5. We thought we'd see it by Monday. I'm holding off. I'm kind of, ever since T-Mobile announced a couple of days ago that they're going to offer free international data roaming.
That is so huge.
It's edge only, I found out. So I'm not like quite as excited about it.
Yeah, but it's what I
But
get,
it's something.
Leo. I'm on my AT&T now, and that's piece of I pay when I'm over doing my big Davos thing. I pay $100 extra for that month for the data, and then I get close to going over.
Yeah, and I paid $250 to get 800 megabytes. That's the biggest package they offer on my travels. It's expensive. So now, admittedly, that's 3 and 4G in areas where you can get it. But I'm as soon as T-Mobile announced this, I said, great, that's it. When I travel, it's T-Mobile only, right? Mm-hmm. And it's in most of the countries you go to. You can find out more about it. And that makes the Nexus 5 to me more compelling. Actually makes the Nexus 4 compelling because even though it doesn't have LTE, I don't even need LTE.
Right.
So
Well, there's reports now. I saw reports there might be a new Nexus 4 with LTE.
interesting.
I saw that in one report.
You
Of course,
can't buy the
this is
Nexus 4
ridiculous
now.
Yeah, they removed it, right?
Yeah.
Of tech blogs is that the slightest little tiny thought or rumor or guess gets spread and
Oh, yeah.
metastasized like Andromeda
Oh, yeah.
strain.
It's like a game of telephone.
Oh,
It's out of
God,
control.
So I search every day for Nexus 5 the way I used to search every day for Nexus 7 LTE, and because I want to know what's going on. I want
Nexus 4, we are out of inventory. Please check back soon on both the 8 and the 16 gig
Just
version.
discontinue it. You'd think they'd take it down.
They didn't take it down, so maybe that's what's going on. I mean, we've seen a lot about the Nexus 5. Here's my theory. The FCC was shut down by this government shutdown 16 days ago. the reason we know anything about the Nexus 5 is because of FCC approvals of the Bluetooth radio and things like that. I bet you there's some approvals that are just hanging, and as soon as they go through, then maybe Google can release it. Gina was telling us a variety, I guess this is from All About Android last night, a variety of release dates based on everything from astrology to hit songs.
Well, so on the Google Plus page, the KitKat Google Plus page, this is plus.google.com/+KitKat, which is run, and we can't tell if it's run by Hershey's or by Google, but it is clearly like an Android branded, KitKat page. They keep posting these images, which appear to be clues to the release date. So the first one that they posted was a chocolate KitKat Android dancing. And the caption was "Everybody Dance Now." So people looked up and said, "Oh, Everybody Dance Now" was a hit single released by CNC Music Factory on October 18th, 1990.
Oh, please.
October 18th must be the release date.
Oh,
and then they posted an image which says "This Is It" in KitKat bars. Now, "This Is It" is the name of Michael Jackson documentary, which was released on October 28th. So everyone said, okay, it's definitely the 28th because CNC Music Factory used to be named like the 28th Brigade or something, so it must be the 28th, right?
That is ridiculous.
Course, on All About Android, our guess is that it's Halloween because KitKat is a Halloween candy.
Right.
We really have no idea. I think it's hilarious that Google is clearly baiting Android enthusiasts and bloggers with these so-called hints about
everybody dance now.
Everybody dance now.
So I'm told, we talk about this on MacBreak Weekly, that the artists who create Apple's invitations to their events release, when the invitation goes out, they sit around reading tech blogs, watching shows like this, drinking and laughing at all of the speculation that occurs. And I imagine the KitKat folks are probably chowing down right now in a chocolate bar, just howling.
Having a good laugh.
I doubt very much that they said "Everybody Dance Now" as a very obscure clue to a release date, but maybe they did.
I don't know. That's pretty googly, Leo. It's pretty googly.
Okay, it is googly, but I don't think this is a Google account.
Well, that's the thing is that
this points back to KitKat.com.
KitKat.com, and if you go to KitKat.com, it's amazing to me. They built their whole site around Android. It's incredible. I mean, we in case you missed it, you might want to go back and take a look. We looked at their website, and it's all like, I can see Google writing this for them and saying, hey, look, we'll give you the whole code. Just go throw this up on your website because it says KitKat 4.4, all this stuff. And it's all like a technology website for selling some sort of phone or new gadget or something.
Well, wait a minute. Let's do a who is on the KitKat site and find out who owns. Well, we'll see how obscure this information is anyway.
It's going to be an ad agency.
No, Hershey's.
Oh, it's owned by Nestle, folks.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but they definitely owned KitKat.com before this partnership.
Yes, that's true.
Right?
This record expires on May 2014. It was created in May 1997.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, they've owned it for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Registered through 2 Cows.
Really?
Nestle.com.
How forward-thinking of them.
Yes. So, yeah, I guess there's nothing to be deduced. They already owned the domain. Remember, no money was exchanged at any time for this fabulous relationship.
They're just
teams of people were hired to implement this.
But no money was exchanged. Very important.
They like Android that much that they decided to redo their whole website.
We just
nerds
love
who like
Android.
chocolate. They're just nerds who like chocolate, Leo. Come on.
Yeah.
You're just being cynical.
Yeah.
No.
So, is it related to the Nexus 5? Like they're going to release the two at the same time?
That's been the
Well,
speculation.
that's the question.
Yeah. Yeah, because actually they would, because you don't release KitKat. You have to put out a product with KitKat on it. I mean,
most of the time.
it's meaningless to say, well, download KitKat.
Yeah, it's not
It's
going to be an
yours.
over-the-air push release. Yeah,
Right.
there's definitely going to be a device.
Yeah.
There's going to be a flagship device.
Yeah.
A device.
There's a
running.
device.
Right. And then we've already
There
seen
was a picture
screenshots
online
of
Right.
phones
of a
running
Best
this
Buy
on the
Nexus 5 display. It's already in Best Buy.
There's a Nexus 5 display in Best Buy.
with no phones on it, but it said Google.
Interesting.
And a hooded thing, and 3 spots for phones to be up there. And whoever put the picture up said, I asked the manager, and yes, it's a Nexus 5 display.
Well, we were thinking Tuesday. I'm thinking maybe it was planned Tuesday, and it's just been held up by the government closure in the United States. The rumor, according to a Romanian Android blog, that
We're down to that.
There-
No, there is.
there's the empty display. Wow. Does it say Nexus 5 anywhere, or just Google?
No, the guy asked the manager. The other thing that I've seen, again, it's meaningless because it's just report after report mutating, but said that this time was not going to have the supply problems with the Nexus 4, and that it was going to be available all over and in stores and so on and so forth, which I hope is the case because I don't want to be screaming at myself. We're taking a smaller unit. I want to get the larger memory this time.
Well, and I've been playing with the Galaxy Note 3 for a week, and I love it. And I like the Notes, I like the big phones, but I'm not going to buy it. I cannot use TouchWiz. I want a googly phone.
Yes.
I like my Moto X. I wish I had it on T-Mobile, but I wanted a red back, and I could only get that on AT&T. So
That's
you
why I
can get
put.
it unlocked now.
Huh?
You can get it unlocked. You paid for it, so you can get it unlocked.
I can get it unlocked,
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, that's why I put Google Edition on my Samsung Galaxy S4 as soon as I got it, right? Because I hate
Yeah.
TouchWiz. So now it looks just like a Google phone.
That's not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's totally
Does the
workable.
camera work well and everything?
The camera works well. In fact, I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
And you know what the best part about it is because it's not running all that TouchWiz crap in the background. I double the battery life.
Yeah, and you probably
Double.
double the storage because those Nexus,
Wow.
those GS4s come with
Yes.
scant storage because of all the crapola.
That's right.
So you went, what is it, a 16 gig?
It's a 16 gig. So I started out with TouchWiz. I think I had 9 point something already
Free.
used.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
used.
Holy cow.
And I went down to 4 point something.
Isn't that awesome? 5
Yeah.
free gigs just
5
by
free gig, just
getting
by-
rid
yeah.
of
And it
the
runs
Samsung
better
crap.
and the battery lasts longer.
Good. I'm going to do that. Is that an easy thing to do?
Very easy.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you have to root it?
Samsung is the Microsoft of phones.
I had problems with the triangle count. You know, the
Right,
is
right.
there, can you reset that now?
I'll have to look. I'm not
Because
sure.
I had some failed rooting
Ooh.
efforts, so my count is now maxed.
Oops.
Whoops.
Oops. I'll help you with it if you want to do it.
Help me, man, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Leo, did the camera on the Moto X get improved with that recent?
Yeah, the firmware upgrade. Yeah, I guess.
You're not seeing it?
Well, I don't know.
Supposedly, they said it did.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure it did. It's still, I mean, there's only so much you can do to make it better. Some of that's hardware, but I guess, yeah, they said the color rendition's better, and I don't know. I took a lot. Truth is, it wasn't ever awful. Let me go look at my
It
pictures
was
and
just
see.
inferior.
It had a little green cast, which, as far as I can tell, so this was taken with it before the update, and you can even see the little green cast. In fact, you do not see my screen anymore. Oh yeah, you do. So you can see the little green cast on there. In fact, I did a little trial because that guy on the left, Jamal, had an iPhone 5S, and his picture was so much better. Does that mean going black? Gosh darn it! And then I took this after. I think it is better. This actually, the color rendition looks a lot better on this.
Yeah, it does.
Unless I did that. Oh, wait a minute. I did that with an iPhone 5S. No wonder it's better.
Oh.
Darn it, both of these are iPhone 5s. Never mind. I'll take a picture with my Moto and post it. I should take an identical picture. Here, I'll do an identical one. The one that looks just like Andy, but this time it'll be Gina. I think it's not quite as good. It'll take a little while to upload.
That looked funny, you shaking it.
I like this. Everything about the Moto X I like. I like the fact that I have a little NFC tag right here that keeps it unlocked. I like the fact that it doesn't. The Moto Assist is surprisingly useful. That's that little app that knows if you're driving or in a meeting or sleeping, and it's never bugged me on shows ever since. I used to have to turn the phone off.
Wow.
I just made sure that every show was a meeting by adding a person.
Right.
And now it no longer rings during shows, which is very nice.
It's incredibly useful.
It's little things like that. It's not huge. It's just little things. I think I got some pretty good pictures while I was traveling. These are all Moto X pictures, and I think that the color rendition was pretty good actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, this is before the firmware upgrade. So I think if there's enough light, this camera's pretty good. It's not iPhone 5 quality, but it's okay.
Yeah, those are really nice, Leo.
Yeah, I don't think that this is bad.
That's
And
good.
some of these are very low light. These are all with the Moto X. You see, and this is one thing I've always had a problem with the Moto X, lens flare.
Yeah.
For some reason, bright light,
Yeah.
it just really it baffles it.
Yep.
This is in a very dark cistern, and it actually was able to. It's grainy, you know, it's noisy, but it was able to get a picture, and it's really dark here. That's the Medusa's head upside down. That's the cistern. It's just that's the kind of lighting. So that's not bad. It's okay. Don't buy it for the camera.
No.
Let's see. Moving along. Other stories on our mind today. Now I want a Kit Kat bar. I blame you. Ad Age says Microsoft Scroogle ads work. I would have thought that these ads would have infuriated people or they would have been baffled. But according to Ad Age, proving that it does call.
Yeah, you had to say it.
Well, you know why? By the way, how do you like my ringtone? You know why? Because this moron who's calling, and next time you call him, I'll give out your phone number, knows that the meeting thing doesn't, I have it set so that if somebody rings twice from the same number, it must be an emergency. So they called once. I saw the call come in.
And it
It
went
didn't
off.
ring.
It didn't ring. It
And then,
vibrated
and then they
away.
called immediately again.
Yeah.
So I have it set so that if family members call, it rings, and second ring, it rings. You know what I'm going to do is just change that setting, and you'll be out of luck. 714. Oh, no, that's my mom. The Scroogled ads, negative to the core, a rarity for consumer tech. Even the mean-spirited "I'm a Mac, I'm a PC" featured a product comparison at least. But while the tactics may be ugly, says Ad Age, the ads are working according to 2 ad effectiveness firms and research. Oh, wait a minute. Commissioned by
This is research
Microsoft.
for Microsoft. Yeah, this is my fault. I put this up.
I really should read his.
Yeah, I think you should.
Nah, I'm not going to do that. That would be mean. I'm not going to.
You're nice. You're a nice guy.
Stoop to his level, but I will
Just
change
give out the
setting.
last 2 numbers and scare them.
I started with the area code. I don't know why people are this way. It's very sad, frankly, to me. For Microsoft, it's a win, said the executive vice president at Ace Metrics. More than 53% of people who saw the Scroogled ads. I don't need to describe those, right? Those are the ads where Microsoft goes, it was Scroogled by Google. 53% of the viewers mentioned Google in their response to the ads and said they would look at Bing in a new light, or at least seek more information.
But let us be clear, this was done for Microsoft.
Well, no, this is so according to 2 ad effectiveness firms and research commissioned by Microsoft.
Oh, I see.
So I don't know if Ad Benchmark Index said they have certainly raised the level. I thought I turned this guy off. Maybe the silence setting isn't working because he's got a special number. That's interesting. Oh, now I know what that means. So that means it will override even silence. So I have to go into Assist and change the setting. That's too bad.
Because it's thinking you really want to hear from this guy.
This guy's called like a bunch of times. He must really want to talk to me.
Maybe you won $1 million.
Okay, there you go. Keep trying. Good luck. So one of the way they can measure this is they sent people to a site called Scroogled.com. Once viewers do hit Scroogled.com, now this is the Microsoft stuff. Data collected for Microsoft by Answers Research show a 45% favorability gap in favor of Google, contracting to just 5%. In other words, when they go in, 45% are favorable. By the time they read the crap, which is mostly disinformation, 5% are favorable. Data shows the likelihood of someone recommending Google to a friend drops by 10% and increases for Bing 7%. I wonder if we'll see more of these ads in that case.
Google's kind of a prime target for this kind of thing because, I think that people who don't talk about technology and think about technology every day like we do, Google is so good that even we have these moments where we're like, how did it know that?
It plays to what
me?
they already kind of suspect, right?
Yeah.
Just confirms your
It's
suspicions.
playing on people's fears.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think the bigger thing is not that, it's the new programmable ads, where if you search for something on Amazon and 2 days later you see that same thing pop up in an ad in front of you, that shocks people more, I hear.
Yeah, that is surprising. I mean, when we had the baby and I started looking at, looking at baby products a lot more online, I would suddenly see ads for baby stuff, and it was such a surprising, it was to me, even though I understand how this works, I was like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, that works. That's really good. It was a noticeable shift.
Yeah, it does surprise you though when you see it, right?
It does.
It does, because you're not expecting it. You're
was
just
looking.
you're like, doing my thing. Hey, well, how'd that get there? Like, what?
I was researching car seats, and
Right.
then the next day I got an ad for the one that I was looking, that I was just about to buy, but then stopped midway because I got busy, and I was like, whoa,
Whoa.
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's a grain of truth there, but I always wonder about these things. Like, what happens? So I imagine these people like going into this room, right, and they watch this ad, and then they immediately put down like what they think.
Right.
But what about the day after that?
The day
Like,
after, they don't even remember. I
Yeah,
think,
they're not going to remember. Like, is it
Yeah.
really that effective?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're measuring it to the ideal here, but is it really that effective the next day, or maybe when Google announces something cool that comes out, all of a sudden, oh, who cares? I forget about that.
Here's the real test. Do they stop using Google?
Right.
No.
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 That's the real
Right.
test. All of a sudden they're using Bing? No.
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 But the survey said they were going to.
They were going to. They had planned on
This
it.
way, Pepsi Challenger, no. Coke is still number one.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the Pepsi challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the same idea.
I can tell the difference. I used
Can you?
to when I drank cola.
Pepsi and Coke, yeah.
Oh yeah, I can.
Pepsi's
Sure.
sweeter.
It is. Yeah.
Coke's has a more of a ting, a tang. Walla walla, bing bang. Google,
RC
got, it's interesting. Initially, this looks like a victory for Google. Not so fast. A federal judge in Delaware on Wednesday dismissed a class action lawsuit over the Google iPhone thing. This was Google bypassing Safari on the iPhone setting to block third-party cookies using a trick and, in fact, tracking people, even though they had explicitly said, or at least Apple. So this is where Google's contention was, look, this is a default setting by Apple not to allow third-party cookies. We don't believe that the user set that, so we're going to ignore it. Class action lawsuit. The judge says you can't prove any harm, so I can't find in your favor. The judge did not say this is harmless. This is okay. In fact,
Basically had no standing.
it just, you have to show suffering to get an award. Judge Sue Robinson wrote, the companies had circumvented browser settings, allowing users' personal information to be sold to ad companies, but the judge said the plaintiffs could not show they suffered because companies collected and sold their information.
Well, that is important though, because we try to run the law on I don't like that or on creepiness, when in fact it's actual harm that's
What's the actual
necessary
harm?
proof.
Provable harm. Yeah.
But the judge admits that the judge said, yeah, you tricked the browser. You ignored a setting. It's just that there's no harm.
There's no law against that. There's no law against going around a setting. Good God, we all do.
Yeah, but listen to what Google said. A Google spokesperson said the company is pleased with the decision. Quote, protecting the privacy and security of our users is one of our top priorities. But that's not what the decision had anything to do with. The decision said you did not, in fact, protect the privacy and security of your users. It's just there was no harm, so no foul. But you didn't, in fact, do that. They ignored privacy settings and went around it. It's just there was no damage done. And I think you could say there is damage done, but it's de minimis. It's not like it's hard to demonstrate.
can't
Well, how
measure that.
much damage? Is it $1? Is it a penny? Is it $500? Or you can't say. That's why you can't come up with an award in this case. So I don't know if that's a victory. I just think you just can't prove that how much damage there was. Okay? Okay.
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 Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I get court case burnout sometimes.
I
with these
know.
things. It's
It's
like,
just-
patent
it's
lawsuits,
like reading
and this guy's
tea
suing this
leaves
guy.
and stuff.
And,
All right, here's one. Remember we talked in July about Google saying you cannot have a home server if you have Google Fiber?
Yes.
Well, they've reversed it.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Took a while. But yeah, good for them.
Yeah. And that's not the case, I don't think, with any cable company I know of.
No. The acceptable use policy used to ban any type of server. The new terms say Google Fiber customers are not allowed to operate servers for commercial purposes. However, personal, non-commercial use of servers that complies with this acceptable use policy is acceptable, including using virtual private networks to access services in your home and using hardware applications that include server capabilities for uses like multiplayer gaming, video conferencing, and home security. So you still can't run a commercial web server.
Right. So I couldn't run my crowdfunding campaign on a server on this network because that would be considered commercial use.
Right.
I feel like that's probably an acceptable line, right? Commercial use.
Well, that was the big complaint was, hey, people run servers all the time. If you play if you have video games, you're running a server.
Yeah. Internet of Things, it's going to be doing that like crazy.
Right. I wonder how many people are aware of that, though. You think everybody? I mean, there are obviously people running servers out of their house for commercial purposes, right?
Yeah.
I wonder how many people are actually aware that
that's illegal,
or at least
I think it's in the back
against the terms of their agreement.
Their rules. It's
against
the terms of
you can't get a static IP, so you can't really use it.
Don't you? I'm sure you get a static IP.
Really?
Well, maybe not.
When you do,
you're not guaranteed a static IP.
You're not guaranteed it. But there's ways around that. There's Dyn DNS.
Right. People use dynamic DNS to get around that.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I remember when I first started with trying to run something on the internet a long time ago. I ordered a DSL line that was separate from my internet connection because of this very thing. I thought that I had to do
You wanted the dedicated IP address.
I wanted the dedicated IP address. I wanted the traffic to be separate. Yeah. So, I mean, it's in your best interest to do that anyway.
For security, if nothing else.
But, I mean, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. It doesn't seem like anybody's going after people who are running commercial things out of their house because I think logistically, if you're successful, you exceed the bandwidth limitations that you have anyway. You need something more. But
right.
I don't know. It just seems interesting to me that probably most people have no idea that this is a clause in their agreement with their cable company or internet provider.
So this must be from you, Jeff Jarvis.
This is the Google Maps one?
No, the gracious Bill Gross.
Oh, well, I just put that up. Yeah, it was. I thought it was just interesting that it was the history of the Google ad model, and it's a little bit long to go into, but Bill, and Bill's a friend of mine. Bill's been on the show.
He's a wonderful guy.
He's a great guy. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing him today because I'm seing you guys. He's happens to be in New York. We were going to get together, but we couldn't. So shows where my priorities are.
Thank you.
But it talks about how I'm going to forget the name of the company. Help me out here.
GoTo.com.
GoTo was really the original model, and there was a suit, and it did involve some considerable reward to GoTo. After it was sold, but what
is it still around? No, that's gonna be Yahoo like the Yellow Pages
like
now.
Everything Yahoo buys. No, it was Overture. They became Overture, and Yahoo bought Overture.
Bill Gross started it in February 1998, 7 months before Google launched. We didn't like GoTo at the time because the search results had ads mixed in, so you could get paid search results in effect.
But it was the view. And Gross somewhere in here says that, aren't you upset about this? And Gross says, quote, or says, not really, says Gross, we didn't patent the idea.
Right.
So if we don't patent it, they can copy it. Gross is convinced the concept of cost per click auction-based search advertising system would have been patentable in retrospect. But by the time he thought to do it, though, it was too late.
I would guess Bill Gross has left. I would guess Bill Gross has left a lot of money on the table in his many years as an innovator.
Yeah, he's a tremendous innovator.
Now, the way he did it was kind of reprehensible because basically you would buy an ad, but instead of an ad placement on the side, it would be in the search results.
Right.
He said, well, this will help with spam because people who paid for it will go to the top. I'm not sure that's right.
Yeah, I looked at Bill over my glasses at the time, when he was doing that. But it was a visionary thing, and he was on the beginning of it, as he often is. The great thing is at the end of the story, it says Gross, for his part, seems comfortable, even happy with how things turned out. He has nothing but raves for Google. I'm wildly proud of coming up with a paid search model, he told me. I didn't know how big it was at the time. And that's what struck me as pretty darn gracious. He says, I wish I had come up with the Google idea. The Google idea was the idea for organizing the world's information. Mine was just an idea for making money. So I thought that was a nice touchy bill.
Yeah, and
Very gracious.
to Larry and Sergey's credit, they thought that mixing the results in was reprehensible. They didn't want to do that. They talked about partnering with Overture, but they didn't want to do it because they didn't want to mix it in together, and they thought they could do their own thing, in which they did, of course, with
and it also made a
AdWords.
competitive advantage for them, right? It said, we're not evil. This is what we're going to do instead, and thus be better.
Is it not the case? It seems to me that was the original "We're Not Evil" was that we will not mix ads in with our search results.
Yes, I think so.
That was the whole thing.
Well, it was engineers who were giving up a conference room for an ad sales meeting. Isn't that this is the origin story of Don't Be Evil? And before they left the room, Jeff, you probably know this, they wrote Don't Be Evil on the whiteboard.
No, I never heard that.
I think that rings a bell. That sounds right.
Maybe it was from In the Plex, but I feel like that's my understanding of the origin story of Don't Be
Hey,
Evil.
you salespeople, don't be evil. I'm going to put that on our whiteboard. I like it.
Yeah, that's according to Wikipedia. You are correct, Gina.
That's a great story.
I love that story.
That's a great story.
Don't be evil. Make good choices.
It was institutionalized. Yeah. A first look inside Google's futuristic quantum lab. This from The Verge. And there's a short film, I guess, that debuted at the Imagine Science Films Festival that shows some of the, we can play a little bit of this, that shows some of the research projects, including computing at absolute zero or near absolute zero, quantum architectures.
Colder than space, they said.
Colder than space. Wow, that's kind of cool. Quantum chips. The D-Wave processor, which uses a behavior that links particles with no apparent physical connection. And they say the first practical application has been on Google Glass. Engineers used the quantum chips to work on Glass's blink detector, helping it to better distinguish between intentional winks and involuntary blinks. Obviously, the Glass does not have a quantum processor in it,
right?
But I wonder why it was so cold.
but the better blink detecting algorithm came from quantum processors.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow. Wow.
So it's not used itself in the process, but it makes
it creates an algorithm.
Makes the algorithm better.
Right.
Yeah.
Together will not be capable.
It's also beautiful.
Of coming up with the best.
Those are just shots of their data center.
optimization
I've seen those before.
problems as they get larger. So now what is an optimization problem? Here, give you an example. You want to do a trip through South America and you want to visit a number of cities. And then you ask, what is the cheapest ticket I can get to
scientists should have this accent. Whatever this accent is.
You can, of course, different routes and different airlines.
I thought it was Sebastian at first. When I first saw it.
It sounds like Einstein.
All the different options I have for my different routes to travel to these cities.
We currently, as a civilization, we generate vast amounts of data. It could be climate data, genomic data, but it's very difficult to generate useful insights oftentimes from that data.
If you can solve optimization problems better, you have an important resource at your hand.
I love that. So the blink, I guess, is that kind of problem?
It was an optimization problem.
Very cool.
Very, very cool.
Very cool.
Extremely cool.
Yeah.
It's colder than space.
Colder than space.
I am cooler than space. Yeah. Now, you may be wondering, Leo, when are you going to get to the Google changelog? But there's no changelog today for the first time ever.
Yeah, there just isn't enough to fill a segment. Sorry, guys. There just haven't been a lot of releases this past week.
Everything's the same.
We changed our privacy policy. Now we can't do any more.
It's all because of the federal government shutdown.
Yeah.
Changes because, like the ad thing that we discussed, and just sort of regular pushes, of other apps, but none of the Google apps have had any significant changes this week.
No.
So I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I didn't find anything either.
Did a trip through my subscriptions and didn't see anything. So next week. There'll be more changes next week.
Well, we could take a break and come back with our tool and tip and number, and Aaron, whatever Aaron wants to do, if you would like. Or do you have any other stories that we have not yet covered that you want to mention?
Can you talk about the last one under other, Leo?
Yes, I can.
That's what I was asking. I was wondering.
You like that one?
I love
The
that.
last one under other. Let me scroll down. Yeah, I could talk about this. I actually donated money to this when they were raising money. So there is a company that is trying to sue podcasters. They haven't sued us, but they've sued, I think, the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Discovery. They've sued Adam Carolla. They've sued a bunch of different podcasts saying we have a patent on podcasting, of all things, and you better give us money or you're in trouble. So the Electronic Frontier Foundation has the Mark Cuban Chair to End Stupid Patents. Is that it? Something like that. And so they've been very active in this patent troll issue, and they've decided there are a number of ways you can fight a patent troll. The obvious way is to fight them in court. You know, they sue you or you sue them. In fact, a couple of companies have sued them proactively, saying, we're going to sue you, trying to get the venue in New York instead of in Texas, where the patent troll is trying to get these suits. So you go to court. Often it's a jury trial if you get that far, a jury of people, in this case in East Texas, and they like to do it there because they've had a lot of success in East Texas, both of the judges and the juries, will decide. And this company's already won in other cases against Apple, not the same patent, and won quite a bit of money. The other way to fight it is to go to the patent office and say, hey, we want to overturn this patent. We don't think this is a good patent. And the EFF has decided to file with the patent office. Not
that there's anyone there to get the challenge.
Yeah, nothing will happen right now. But I guess we're going back to work in the next couple of days. So they filed a formal challenge to the patent. I could read you the patent. They call it an inter partes review. It takes a while. For a while, the EFF was asking, there's a website, I can't remember the name of it is, where you can go and give examples of prior art in an effort to help this process. There it is. So if you see the prior art link there, Chad, if we're under Help Save Podcast, it's Ask Patents. That's it. So a number of people contributed there saying, hey, there was prior art here. Lots of, and, you know, I don't know how helpful any of that was. I don't know if there was a perfect example, but there were quite a few examples there. The prior art has to predate the patent that the patent troll is invoking, which I think is a 1995 or 96 patent. In any event, apparently the EFF believes that it has enough material now to successfully appeal to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office to overturn this. That could be very good news if they succeed, because now this could take 18 months, by the way, a year and a half. Yep. But if if the USPTO overturns it, the whole thing just goes away.
And of course, you know the technology these people were working on when they filed this patent, right? It was Audible magazines.
Yeah.
On cassette.
Right.
Not even digital. So they were sending out cassettes to people, reading the magazine, and that's what this patent's for. And it was a system for disseminating media content representing episodes in a serialized sequence. And there's a particular clause that they're basing the lawsuits on. You know, I can go on and on. I know a little more about this than I care to. The clause, if you want to read it, is clause 31, apparatus for disseminating a series of episodes represented by media files via the internet as said episodes become available. Which sounds a little bit like podcasting, you know, and this is the problem. You can fight this, and you can even say, no, this isn't obvious, this is trivial. But a jury's going to sit and look at this and go, well, golly, there you are, CBS, big company, sitting on some poor guy who invented this thing, 20 years ago, and you're not giving him a penny, and they can easily find against you. So it's a complicated thing. Fighting it in court costs millions of dollars. It's much less expensive if you can win. By filing a patent inter partes. On the other hand, there are risks to doing that. Every strategy has its risks. If the patent office says, nope, we reviewed it and it's a good patent, that makes it much harder to win in court. Yep. So
while I'm thrilled the EFF did this, I have mixed feelings about it. If they lose, that's really bad news.
Yeah. Right.
So
I would highly recommend for people that are interested in this topic to go out to This American Life.
yeah, they did their second episode.
The second episode, they started covering this patent right here that we're talking about. And they have some interviews and some details about it. I won't go into the whole thing because it's wonderful to listen to. I just listened to it last night in the car on the way home.
It's very good.
Listen to both of them. I mean, the second one covers pretty much everything in the first one, plus some resolution of some patent cases that they were actually investigating. So I think it's When Patents Attack, I believe, is what it's called.
Yeah.
And that's on This American Life. Just search for it, download it, listen to it. You'll be up in arms after you listen to that show because of what patents are doing to innovation in this country and others.
Yeah, it's a huge sync. Episode 441 from last July, When Patents Attack. Yep. Oh, no, part 2 is 496, sorry, from May of 2013. Episode 496. This is American Life, great show.
Yep.
And
Love
a podcast. I don't think they've been mentioned in the lawsuit, but I got to say, we're all vulnerable as podcasters. So
yeah, well, they asked him that actually. This is the only part I'll give away in the show. Is they said, we're doing a podcast right now. Are you going to sue us? I said that takes balls. Good for you.
And I'm sure, and I know who they were talking to, and I'm sure he said, "Well, no, we're not going to sue you."
Right. Yeah.
Unless.
Yeah. We decided right now not to pursue that, and we'll just leave it there.
And that's the real consequence of this kind of trolling is that it isn't big companies riding roughshod over inventors at all. It's not that at all.
Right.
But juries don't always see it that way. Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up. What a downer, Debbie Downer.
Sorry about that.
Thanks a lot.
Well, I know it's interesting to everybody listening, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah, well, everybody who listens to podcasts should be aware of it, yeah.
Yeah.
The EFF has quit. Speaking of EFF, we talked about this on Security Now. The Global Network Initiative, a group of tech firms dedicated to opposing internet censorship, they said that it doesn't have any confidence the members of the group, which includes Facebook and Google, can really talk about privacy and surveillance given the government and PRISM. They're afraid that these companies have been gagged by the U.S. government, and so they really this global network initiative is no longer useful of any kind. EFF said it can no longer sign its name on joint statements, knowing now that GNI's corporate members have been blocked from sharing crucial information about how the government has meddled with these companies' security practices. I don't know if there's evidence, frankly, that Google and Facebook
I think
have
this may be
kowtowed to the government.
a tactical thing.
Yeah.
To say that to bring attention to the way they are getting.
Right.
But I
And-
was talking to somebody at a big who used to work with a big communications online company, let's put it that way, and about this idea that I've had for some time, wondering if there are people with a very high security clearance working for you, and the managers at the company do not have that much security clearance. It leads to the presumption that there are things going on in your own company that you don't know, that the government is managing your company. That is a frightening prospect.
Yeah. And
Chad have security clearance, by the way?
no. Do you? Chad, I should have asked.
No.
They don't give security people to people with red hair.
No. It's
Right
definitely that'd definitely be an issue for them. I've had family members who have been dating other people who had security clearance, but that's about it.
Oh. By the way,
So
Chad,
it looks
I
like
never
there's a
complimented you.
countdown to Kit Kat going up on
On the
Kit
Kit
Kat
Kat
site.
Plus site?
Well, it's not live. Fandroid actually viewed the source, looked through the JavaScript, and found a reference to a coming soon countdown. So, so the coming soon countdown is coming soon. Apparently.
So we know from the JavaScript when the coming soon countdown starts, but not when it ends.
We are such
No,
schmucks.
Is that what
we
you're
know
saying?
That it's coming. That the countdown might be coming soon.
The
because there's a
countdown is
reference-
coming, but we don't know what the countdown is.
Right. We don't know what the countdown is.
Coming soon.
countdown.
Okay, this is the most useless piece of information ever.
And now it's going to
No,
spread
this isn't
across
useless. This means
4,000 tech blogs.
They're going to announce a date, and then they're going to put a countdown on the site. So it's not going to happen just out of the blue.
The site at some point will also scroll. This is a new break.
It has scroll.
Scroll in there.
And
It's in a window.
What is this reference to Android gingerbread? That's making me nervous. I don't know if I like
Oh, there's
that.
the Froyo.
It's all in there, huh?
It's all in there.
Yeah.
Coming soon, launched. Oh, that's
Well,
good.
what
This
it
is
does
good
mean is
stuff.
we'll know at least 24 hours before.
Right.
Exactly.
In a related,
I wanted to lighten things up.
in a story. Well, no, I'm not done yet. In a story related to that, but not exactly the same, the directors of all the major internet organizations have said we are no longer going to be involved with the United States government. We're no longer a fiefdom of the Commerce Department. We are a non-governmental from here on in. This includes ICANN, the IETF, the Internet Architecture Board, the World Wide Web Consortium, the Internet Society, all 5 regional internet address registries, all said they called for accelerating the globalization of ICANN and IANA functions towards an environment in which all stakeholders, including all governments, participate on an equal footing. We explicitly rejecting the U.S. Commerce Department's unilateral oversight of ICANN.
And this is just huge in the long run because this is how the government truly blew it. And this invites in Iran, China, and company.
And Russia.
This is dangerous to the net. Thank you very frigging much, NSA.
Yeah. And I don't blame them because who can trust the U.S. government?
I don't either. But this affects the future of the internet. This affects the business of the internet. This affects Americans' views of us. Aye.
Square Cash has been launched. You can now send money from Square via email. You could do that with the Google Wallet.
There's lots of
right?
ways to do that.
Big deal. I like this one. Bank robbers alleged. Bank robbers.
Put that in. I'm a journalist.
They were charged in Massachusetts with robbing a bank. Of course, what did they do? The cops, they went and got the computer and they looked at their history. And apparently they were searching for things like, let's see.
How to
What happens if you rob a bank?
What happens if you rob a bank? Also, what happens if you rob a house? And what happens if you rob a drug dealer? Apparently, the least risky is robbing the bank. By the way, unarmed robbery, not robbed. It's probably one of those things where they put the finger in the pocket. The getaway driver is also being held on $25,000 bail.
Who probably had Google Maps, labeled as getaway from bank.
What's the fastest route away from the bank?
Who searches for what happens if you rob a bank?
Oh.
No, I mean, even a bank robber, why? What are you going to find? Wait a minute, we got to do it. What happens
Oh, Leo, if you rob a bank, that's it.
rob a bank? Well, I better not rob a bank.
That story's going to come up
Of
first.
course, that story, number one. In fact, we can no longer... Okay, here's 10 potentially catastrophic mistakes made during bank robberies. This is good. This is useful.
Okay.
Boy, gosh, this story has ruined these search results.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the search results are these guys. Thanks, guys, for ruining it for the rest of us. Now I don't know what happens if you rob a bank.
What does happen? What does
What
happen?
does happen? We'll never know now. We'll just see that stupid story. Google maybe doing a watch.
That's exciting.
I had the Google, the Galaxy Gear.
Mm-hmm.
It was better than I thought. Everybody was really slamming it. It's the best of the watches out there. It's got a built-in camera. You can run any Android app, apparently. So now the rumors are Google is doing a watch. Functionality of Google Now, of course, would be front and center, as it is, I would guess, in any wearable device. Apparently, Google will announce, this is the rumor, a Nexus watch, codenamed Gem, when it announces KitKat.
More to count down to. You can get a watch that counts down to counting down to get.
Oh, maybe that's the countdown. It's a special countdown watch. Google did buy Whim, remember? That was one of the early players in smartwatches. It was Android-based.
My theory is that since it's October 31st, they're going to give a bunch of these out to Google employees in Kit Kat wrappers.
Oh.
And then give them out, for Halloween for trick or treat. Like, ooh, that's a nice costume you have there. Have this special.
Have this watch.
Candy.
Have some
There you
candy,
go.
dandy. All right, now we will take a break. Now that we've got the robbers and the watch in, I can now safely move on. Our show today brought to you by
Jeffrey Downer.
Yeah, no, we've distanced ourselves, I think, sufficiently
Yes.
from the depression
Sorry about that.
of
Leo.
lawsuits and non-governmental organizations. And This Week in Google brought to you by Personal Capital, a great way to manage your money and manage your investments. The catch-22 of your financial life, the more you make, the more complicated it is keeping it. Accounts are everywhere. You've got checking, savings. I hope you have retirement. Maybe you've got credit card accounts. You've got investments, mortgages, and loans. It's hard to see the whole landscape. That's what is really cool about Personal Capital. It combines all your financial accounts, gives you a real-time snapshot of all your finances, graphs, charts, reports. It's, you know what? It's kind of like Think Up for Money. It just gives you like kind of the total purview and the overview of what's going on. And it'll help you make better investment decisions right now. It might say things like, well, pay off the credit cards, then make some, there's lots of stuff in here. What should you be doing for retirement? You got kids going to college? Etta, what should you be doing? Personalcapital.com/twig. It's free. You can try it right now. That's your best financial decision. This costs you nothing. Personalcapital.com/twig. Your financial life's going to get more complicated, not less. Trust me. It gets harder as you go along. Take control of it right now. And it's free. Personalcapital.com/twig. We thank you so much, Personal Capital. I interviewed their founder on Triangulation. Really interesting guy. I got to find which episode that was so I can send people to it. I'll find it. Coming up, by the way, Triangulation today, Jerry Ellsworth is here. Jerry, you all know Jerry, of course. She's a great maker. Worked for a while at Steam. Left Steam to work on something very exciting, which she's going to show us. Virtual reality glasses.
And it's cool.
Did you play with it?
I got to try them. It's awesome.
Cast-AR. They funded, by the way. So that's really good news. She has raised $418,720, and they still have 30 days to go. Isn't this cool?
Good for her.
Yeah. So we're going to get our first look at Cast-AR in just a little bit with Jerry Ellsworth on Triangulation. Ooh. Time now, though, for our tip, our number, our tool of the week, and anything Aaron wants to throw in. Let's start with Gina Trapani and her tip of the week.
New Google search trick. Find out what your tip should be for a certain amount on a bill. Seriously. Go to Google
you didn't mean that kind of tip. This is a tip.
Money tip.
No, yeah, this is a tip. Yeah.
A tip.
So you go to Google search and you type in, what is the tip for $37?
I love it.
And Google will return for a $37 bill what the tip should be if you want to tip at 15%. In this case, it would be 37. Wait, is this right? Yeah, 15% would be 5.
But it gives you you can change the percentages and the splits too. Look at that.
Yeah, you can change the percentages. So you can say, hey, what about 20% split between 2 people? And I'll tell you the tip per person and the total per person. Really,
Do people really
handy.
give 15%? Isn't that kind of low?
I think so. I would have made the default 20, but
yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, I would
I'm
too,
privileged.
but I think in the Midwest.
And then you could split it. So if there's 3 people at the bill, each of you can throw in your $889. It actually splits the bill too. That's nice.
It splits the bill. It tells you the tip per person. So really handy. If you don't have a tip calculator installed on your phone, you could I'm sure you could just say this into Google now as well. Split your tip. I love it.
And if you really want to stiff somebody, you can go down to 10%.
Yeah, there you go.
9%.
Does it go below? Yeah, how low does it go?
How low?
Yeah, how low does it go?
Can you go?
It goes to 0%.
Goes to 0%. Well, we know that's 0.
Calculates it for you, yeah.
That one I could figure out.
Let me tell you something. That is such an engineer thing to do. Why would you ever have 0%?
Don't you love Google though? That is awesome.
I guess that's if you need to split an amount, without a tip.
Yes, that's
Which
true.
I guess that makes sense.
That's true.
Yeah, because a lot of them, you don't care because if you have more than 6 people, they've already included the tip anyway,
Right.
right? So you just put it in the total.
That's right. Very
Split it
good.
6 ways. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Good point. So yeah, tip calculator built right into Google search.
Woohoo! Jeff Jarvis, your number of the week.
Well, I can tell it's getting dark earlier here because I'm.
Yeah, look at that. She's sitting in the dark.
So Chad, at the bottom of the Google, there's a video that there's that video I think is kind of neat. So the number of the week is 26. An amazing story that Google's telling of Saru Munshi Khan, who, when he was 5 years old, fell asleep on a train in India with his 14-year-old brother. And so then he woke up 1,500 kilometers away in Calcutta, having no way to get home, nothing at all. He gets adopted by a family in Tasmania.
What?
He does not know where his home was. He's 5 years old. He doesn't have the details. But then he uses, get ready for the goosebumps, Google Maps to track back and find his home. And the end of the video is him in a reunion with his mother back in his
my
home
God.
address. It's just friggin' amazing. It's 3
Wow.
minutes. I don't think we're going to play the whole thing, but it's a wonderful tale. 26 years later, going back home with an Australian accent.
Wow.
Now, I
Wow.
don't see the link. So where's the link, Jeff? You put some other numbers in there.
There's not a video there?
Well, yeah.
No, it's at the
next
it's at the bottom of the top.
No,
Google
it's at
section.
the bottom of Google, bottom of the Google section.
Right, right.
Oh, it's the bottom of the Google section. So the number is 26.
Yeah, I just decided to go back up and rescue that story.
After falling asleep. That is such a strange... The whole thing is strange. He falls
He
asleep on a
tracked-
train and he never gets back home?
Yeah, don't play the whole thing. I don't have any tissues.
Oh my God, that's a killer.
I know.
Boarded our train together. My brother just said, I'll stay here and I'll come back. And I just thought, well, I might as well just go to sleep and then just wake me up. And when I wake up the next day, the whole carriage was empty on a runaway train, a ghost train taking me I don't know where.
Oh, my God. Talk about
I
a
was
black hole of
adopted out
Calcutta.
to Australia, to a Australian family. And Mum had decorated my room with the map of India, which she put next to my bedside. I woke up every morning seeing that map, and hence it sort of kept the memories alive.
I'm
People would
confused.
say, you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, so you never find it. I'd have flashes of the places that I used to go, the flashes of my family faces. There was the image of my mother sitting down with her legs crossed, just watching her cry. Life is just so hard. That was my treasure. And I was looking at Google Map, realised there's Google Earth as well, a world where you could zoom into. I started to have all these thoughts and what possibilities that this could do for me. I said to myself, well, you've got all the photographic memories and landmarks where you're from and you know what the town looks like. This could be an application that you could use to find your way back. I thought, well, I'll put a dot on Calcutta train station in a radius line that, you should be searching around this area. I sort of came across these train tracks and I started following it and I came to a train station which reflected the same image that was in my memories. Everything matched. I just thought, yep, I know where I'm going. I'm just going to let the map that I have in my head to lead me and take me back to my hometown. I came to the doorstep of the house that I was born and walked around about 15 metres around the corner. There was 3 ladies standing outside adjacent to each other. And the middle one stepped forward and I just thought, this is your mother. She came forward, she hugged me and we were there for about 5 minutes. She grabbed my hand and she took me to the house and got on the phone. She rang my sister and my brother to say that,
your brother that you
all of a
lost
sudden appeared like a ghost.
26 years ago.
The one that put you on the train.
We
And,
found
and
him.
It was reunited again.
There you are.
Everything's all good. They helped my mother out. She doesn't have to be slaving
I told
away.
you I'd
She
get
can
him
live the
back,
rest of
Ma.
her life in peace. With a needle in a haystack, but the needle was there. Everything's there. Everything.
Yeah, if Jimmy Kimmel shows up later in this video, I'm
Good point. It is too good. You're right. That's a good point.
it's a touch far-fetched. But okay. He's got a book. There's more to it. He's written a book about this long way home. Did Google pay for this thing, or?
I would imagine they produced it.
Well, they pay for the ad, right?
Yeah. It's an interesting story. Wow. His mother is Jimmy Kimmel. That's it. Aaron, why don't you do it?
Big Brother's Jimmy Kimmel.
Why don't you do your tip?
All right. So this week, on that note, boy, that's hard to follow.
Wow. Yeah.
Take that number.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Jeff Jarvis. So I've got an app actually this week, and it's called Focal. And there's been a few of these apps that have come out of the CyanogenMod going public thing, where people have taken the CyanogenMod, developers that were helping with CyanogenMod and maybe had a piece of that, have taken what they were working on and actually put it on Google Play, on the Google Play Store,
neat.
for people just to download on any phone they want. They don't have to download CyanogenMod. So one of these is called Focal, and it's in beta right now. It's not perfect. It doesn't work every time. Just a heads up, but what it does do is pretty cool. So Focal actually gives you the opportunity to do things like the panorama, the Google Panorama mode, or the Photosphere mode, and all that kind of stuff. If you don't have Google Edition on your phone, you can just get this app. It does a pretty good job of emulating all the features. Oh, there we go. Here it is. So it does a pretty good job of emulating all the features that you would get in the Google, but with more too. There's a ton of features in here, so you can do things like they have an HDR mode. They have different scenes for night mode. Just click on it; it'll give you all the scenes over here. Sunset mode, things like that. Party mode. A bunch of different effects that you can do: sepia, black and white. You can adjust the ISO. You can do things like burst mode if the app that you have on your phone doesn't support burst mode. You can use this to do burst, which I was doing earlier with IAS. Timer mode, things like that. So there's all kinds of cool things that you can do with it. Also, it's got some advanced focusing features. So I don't know if we can do this live. We'll see if the camera can pick it up. But you can click anywhere on the screen and it'll focus on that particular place. So the focus doesn't have to be in the middle. You can move it around. I can focus on my laptop. I can focus. Whoops! Come on. I can focus over here. I can focus over here. You just touch it, focuses wherever you're pointing, and then you can take a picture. The other really cool thing that it does too is it gives you a preview that's separate from the preview. Oh, look, I took a picture of my laptop just then. It gives you a quick preview of some different things. There's IAS checking something out that he got. This is the burst modes. There's a bunch of these. And then if you don't like one, if you don't like a photo, you just swipe down to delete it. So it's really easy to use and a really basic camera with a lot of features. So, and again, it was put out by this guy who was doing this for CyanogenMod, and for whatever reason couldn't have this app in the public version of CyanogenMod, I guess. And so he decided, hey, I'll just put this over the fence as an app in the Play Store. The other really cool thing about this guy is they are starting a new mod, and it's called OmniMod. And I would highly recommend people go check this out. It's at OmniROM. It's at omnirom.org. And what they're doing with OmniROM is they're kind of picking up, I would say, where CyanogenMod left off. It's everything on here is entirely open source, and it's also being used as a learning tool. If you're into modding your phone, or you want to take open source version from Android open source version and mod it and make your own mod to run on your phone, they're actually giving you the tools to do that. So they're putting up the source code, they're putting up tutorials, they're helping people get involved in the Android ecosystem, kind of what I would say the same way that CyanogenMod did when they first got started. So if you're into open source and you're into Android, I would highly recommend checking out omnirom.org. And those are the same people that put up this application called Focal. So it's really cool. It's free to download. And if you want to donate, there's a donate option. You can buy a different version of the app that's $2.99, but it's not a pro version or anything. It's just a way for people to donate and support the app. So there you go.
Very cool.
Focal. Check it out.
Thanks to the chat room. They pointed out that AnyDo's beta is now public. If the calendar version of AnyDo, if you're an AnyDo user, and I apologize, Gina, because I know Gina makes a great to-do app for Android. But
no need to apologize.
Any.do is really beautiful and gorgeous, and works with Google Calendars. I use it a lot for task management. And they've been kind of saying, oh, we're going to do a calendar, we're going to do a calendar. You can now get it on, you've been able to get it on iOS, but you can now get it on Android. But to do this, you have to go to Google+, to the AnyDo Super Users Google Plus page, and join that community. So if you show mine, you'd be better off. There you go. Join this community, AnyDo Super Users. It's Google Plus, AnyDo Super Users. And then you'll see in the About This community the ability to check, become an AnyDo Super User or a Cal Super User. That's what you want. Once you've done that, it'll say, okay, I see you, and then you can join the test. Then you can download it from the Play Store. You have to do this, and that's because it's a little buggy. It's beta, but it is very interesting and very beautiful. And I have to say, I've been a fan of AnyDo for a long time because it's a gorgeous app, and I think they've done a very nice job with the calendar app as well. It's got some unique features. Do you want me to show it over this way? Because then that way you don't have to change calendars. I'll give it to Aaron.
You still got that?
There it is.
There it is.
So you can see there's the calendar. If you swipe that up, you'll see the to-do list and the task manager. And also has a photo theme and some other interesting features. It crashes a lot. It's very buggy. But if you've been wondering, when am I? Oh, now you're getting a phone call from that fellow. If you're wondering, yeah, that's his number, just in case anybody wants to know. If you're
We didn't do it on purpose. We can't be held responsible.
If you want to know, if you've been seeing this and want to know how to get it on Android, that's how you do it. And this just went public today. So you join the AnyDo Super Users group on Google Plus, AnyDo, any.do, I guess, any.do space super splash users, space users, and then click that link and you can download it.
Cool.
I know a lot of people. I've been waiting for a while. I'm a big AnyDo fan, and I'm just interested to see what they come up with as a calendar. And it's very beautiful, very, very gorgeous. All right, I think we got Aaron, we got Jeff, we got Gina. I think we're out of time. Thank you very much for being here. Don't forget thinkup.com to contribute to Gina's fundraiser for ThinkUp and become a ThinkUp user, as I am now, officially, as we all are, on the hosted version of this fabulous social media analytics.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. She's at smarterwear.org. That's her blog. You can also see her on All About Android on Tuesdays and in beta on the 5x5 network, and, of course, every week on this show. Thanks to Jeff Jarvis. Yeah. Oh, and yes.
And little bit of personal news. I am going home. I'm going to moving back to New York, which I'm really excited about at the end of the year. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Going to Brooklyn?
I am. We got a place in Brooklyn. I'm very excited. Probably going to move beginning of December, so end of the year. So you'll have two hosts in New York.
Great news, neighbor.
That's really exciting.
I'm very excited. Yeah, Anil and I have an office there in Manhattan, and I'm excited to work with him in person. And Etta will be closer to her family. So
you just didn't want to raise Etta in California. I know.
Yeah, my girl's got to grow up in Brooklyn.
You didn't want to be a hippie surfer chick. She got to be a hard-bitten, suffering Brooklyner.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Needs an accent.
So,
your mom's out there, right? Your family's out there.
Yeah, my family is there. All of that is cousins and my siblings and my mom and my wife's family are also on the East Coast, not in New York, on the East Coast. So it just makes a lot of sense. We need babysitters. So
That's right. That is important.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like number one.
Absolutely.
I'm delighted. Gina, lunch is on me.
Awesome. I'm so excited, Jeff. I'm really excited. And I'm really honestly excited to be in the New York startup community. I think it's like
it's
the place to start a company. I'm very excited that our office is going to be in New York. And it's been hard for me being here and seeing what's going on in New York and not being able to participate. So I'm glad. It's going to be a homecoming for me.
Well, I'm about to announce that we're going to move the entire Twit operation to Brooklyn next week. So that's exciting.
Perfect. Chipotle on me. Forever.
Chipotle. Hell, I'm eating pizza. Are you kidding?
That's right.
If you move to Brooklyn, don't eat Chipotle. What are you, crazy? Pizza.
For everybody.
Meatballs.
White Castle. Whoops.
What? No, I'll take some White Castle.
You like White
sliders.
Castle?
Why not? Oh, I'm a man. Jeff Jarvis is at the City University of New York. His book is Public Parts. He blogs at buzzmachine.com. Where are you going next? You're going to Davos. Is that soon?
I'm around.
You're around?
That's January. But I'm around for a bit.
Yeah, there's nothing like Switzerland in January, I think.
Yeah, so smart of me. And I don't ski.
Aaron Newcomb, anything you want to plug, my friend?
Not barrel jumping, but you can follow me on Google+. It's the best place to have a conversation with me. I often chat back to fans. They say, oh, we loved seeing you on such and such a program, since I do a variety of them here on the Twit Network. And I'm happy to engage because we have really interesting conversations on Google+. But you can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter as well. So pick your poison.
There you go.
Yep.
Great to have you, Aaron. Thank you for joining us. We do This Week in Google right after Security Now, Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 2000 UTC on twit.tv. Watch live if you can. If you can't, of course, you can always get on-demand audio and video after the fact at twit.tv/twig or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks to our live studio audience, all three of you. Nice to have you. If you want to be in the studio audience, you're more than welcome. Just email tickets@twit.tv. I'm Leo Laporte. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google. Bye-bye.